So in the first part of this discussion regarding chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, we discussed apart from pathophysiology of the bronchial asthma, we discussed up till now the one of the most important group used in the management and the treatment of the acute and chronic both types of bronchial asthma. That group was beta 2 agonist. Now we're going to start the second part of this discussion of COPD. The next important group after beta 2 agonist is the methylxanthine groups. These drugs are usually received or they are extracted from the tea, cocoa, coffee, etc. And the name we have already seen the classification. Let's repeat them: theophylline, theobromine, aminophylline, oxyphylline, and prophylline, flumalacate, pentoxyphylline, and caffeine. Out of that, theophylline is comparatively well absorbed when given orally. Regarding mechanism action of these xanthine derivatives, it has two types of mechanism. One, the most important one is when we give in high concentration, they inhibit phosphodiesterase enzyme, especially 4 types, phosphodie E4, in inflammatory cells on the air smooth muscles, resulting in a higher concentration of intracellular cyclic AMP, which produces bronchodilation. While in some other tissues, instead of this cyclic AMP, cyclic GMP is raised. With this increased concentration, intracellular concentration of cyclic AMP, they produce inhibition of the reduction of the release of cytokines and chemokines, and ultimately resulting in decrease in migration and activation of immune cells. We know cyclic AMP, we have already discussed in their role while we were discussing pathomimetic, they stimulate cardiac function also. But here, we are mainly concerned about their action are on the other side, for example, on smooth muscle where they are producing relaxation, and they also reduce the immune and inflammatory activity of the specific cells of the body here in case of smooth muscles. This diagram we have already gone through. The cyclic AMP above we see beta 2 agonists, they activate the adrenal cyclase and convert more and more ATP into cyclic AMP, which is producing bronchodilation. But this here, theophylline, which is a part of the methylxanthines, it inhibits the phosphodiesterase. We have seen especially of 4, PDE4. So not converting cyclic AMP, so cyclic AMP remains there and thus available to produce bronchodilation. Second mechanism we will see, theophylline is blocking adenosine receptors, because adenosine receptors were provoking bronchoconstriction apart from release of some histamine etc. also, which will also produce bronchodilation, bronchoconstriction. So in this way, theophylline is quite useful to inhibit or to avoid bronchoconstriction and to maintain the normal bronchial tone. In this diagram, we will see later on, because acetylcholine is also inducing bronchoconstriction, so antimuscarinic, especially blocking the M3 receptor, they also avoid the bronchoconstriction and try to maintain the normal bronchial tone. So as we have seen in the previous diagram, second mechanism was they also inhibit adenosine receptor, which will modulate adrenal cyclase and present on the surface, and ultimately they prevent provoking contraction of the air smooth muscles and histamine release from the mast cells of the airway. However, a precaution is there. If nausea, headache, or diarrhea appears with the use of these methylxanthines, then try to reduce the dose. So dose restriction to the subtherapeutic level is also done if above mentioned side or adverse effects appear. Pharmacological effects. So obviously, xanthines are having dominant effect on CNS. So first we will see what are the central nervous system effects of these drugs which are used in bronchial asthma. In low to moderate doses, we know caffeine causes mild increased alertness, or it can delay the onset of fatigue by producing some sort of cortical arousal. We have seen a cup of coffee containing 100 milligram caffeine usually may cause effects on central nervous in the form of nervousness, insomnia, especially in the sensitive patient, and slight bronchodilation in asthmatic patient. So we can't see so much improvement in the asthmatic patient with the cup of coffee. However, for more effective bronchodilation, we have to increase the dose. So the larger doses of this group, especially vivacin, theophylline, etc., they are necessary, but they may cause nervousness and tremors in some patients also, because with the increase in dose, they will stimulate more and more CNS also. And if we further increase with the very high doses, which may be accidental or incidental, suicidal, they may even cause medullary stimulation of the medulla oblongata and all the other centers, and especially then convulsions may occur, and ultimately we have seen in few cases even death has occurred with so much stimulation of these centers with these methylxanthine derivatives. Second important group is obviously cardiovascular. So cardiovascular effects में there is positive coronal rate बढ़ जाता है, inotropic force of contraction, blood pressure will rise, and especially in sensitive individual, few cups of coffee may result in arrhythmias, and this is very common in so many persons. If they are sensitive to this group and they are taken repeatedly these cups of coffee, they may start feeling or suffering from these cardiac arrhythmias. And larger doses may relax vascular smooth muscle. So with vascular smooth muscle relaxation, improved blood supply to the organs will be seen. And this effect we have seen useful in case of intermittent claudication, which is usually due to vasoconstriction of those, for example, of the hands or feet, etc. So they methylxanthine, etc., they may produce vascular smooth muscle relaxation. However, regarding the cerebral blood vessel, they may produce contraction. This effect may be tried in case of migraine. Effects on GIT, they stimulate the secretion of both gastric acid and digestive enzyme, and this way they can help in digestion, etc. So even decaffeinated coffee in market available, कि बाद लोग कैफीन इफेक्ट ज़्यादा करती है तो they have produced कि उसमें से कैफीन निकाल देते हैं कॉफ़ी में से. Even that can be acting as a potent stimulant effect on the secretion of gastric acid, etc. Potent again means even with the smaller amounts of these methylxanthines, they can stimulate the gastric acid secretion and the digestive enzyme. Effects on kidney, especially theophylline, it is having a weak diuretic effect, but this effect is not therapeutic useful. We do describe in classification under diuretics, but usually therapeutically these effects are rarely useful. Obviously, mechanism involved is by increased glomerular filtration, by increasing or stimulating cardiovascular system. So increased glomerular filtration and reduced tubular sodium reabsorption. Effects on smooth muscle, especially bronchial smooth muscle. So there is bronchodilation, especially with the larger doses, but with the therapeutic dose. So larger therapeutic dose may produce bronchodilation. Regarding skeletal muscle, so we have seen the respiratory action of methylxanthines may not be confined to the airways only, but that dose may produce effects on the skeletal muscles also, where they strengthen the contraction of skeletal muscle, especially in vitro, and they improve the contractility and reverse the fatigability, especially in COPD, the largest skeletal muscle of the body, that is diaphragm. So, they are helpful in this way also. This effective diaphragmatic performance may account for theophylline's ability to improve the ventilatory response to hypoxia and to diminish the dyspnea. So, after going through these effects, let us see the clinical uses of these methylxanthines, especially theophylline. So, theophylline is the most effective bronchodilator out of all these drugs, and it relieves the airflow obstruction, especially in acute asthma. So, this group is useful especially in acute asthma, but they may also reduce the severity of symptom in chronic asthma. We have seen improvement in pulmonary function with reasonable plasma concentration for 5 to 20 milligram per liter. So, pulmonary functions are improved with this theophylline like. Adverse effects. First most important thing is, one advantage is that tolerance does not develop to it. You continue using these methylxanthines, there is no need to increase the dose to get the required effect, because tolerance does not develop. Regarding adverse effects related to GIT, especially anorexia, nausea, vomiting, abdominal discomfort, this one, and at the same time headache, some sort of anxiety, especially if the concentration is more than 20 milligram per liter. It is a narrow therapeutic window, means in the normal therapeutic dose, some sort of severe adverse effects are observed. Plasma clearance of theophylline varies widely from person to person, from condition to condition. Especially adverse effects to CNS, they may limit the dose. We have to reduce the dose if person starts feeling or suffering from the adverse effects related to CNS, जो पीछे हमने देखा कि इवन जब कन्वर्जन तक डेवलप हो जाए. If the concentration is much more than 20 milligram per liter, they may cause convergent seizures or cardiac arrhythmias. तो इतनी डोज में हम नहीं जाना चाहिए. अगला ग्रुप एंटी मस्क्रीनिक, हमने पिछले डायग्राम में भी देखा, मैकेनिज्म जाहिर है कि मस्क्रीन 3 रिसेप्टर्स ब्लॉक करते हैं. तो इन दिस वे they block the contraction of airway smooth muscle produced by the acetylcholine. Not only contraction, at the same time increased secretion of the gastric respiratory bronchial mucosa, वो भी कम हो जाती हैं. So that is seen especially in vigorous stimulation of acetylcholine effect. So in this way, anti-muscarinic drugs are having 2 types of, one bronchodilation, second decrease bronchial secretion. Now, degree of involvement of parasympathetic pathway in bronchomotor responses that varies among subjects. तो इसलिए हर पेशेंट में we can't use antimuscarinic. It will depend कि if a person is having dominant parasympathetic effect, उसका मतलब कि उसमें एलिमेंट ज़्यादा है. Those cases antimuscarinic drugs are quite useful. और हो सकता है बाकी में यूजफुल इतनी ज़्यादा ना हो. Regarding clinical uses, बाकी तो हम यूज पढ़ चुके हैं. The antimuscarinic here as a bronchodilator, they are very effective. So especially if the patients are intolerant to beta 2 agonist, जो हम पीछे देख रहे थे, ठीक है. When given intravenously, especially atropine, even lower doses can produce bronchodilation. So out of antimuscarinic, the useful drug is ipratropium bromide, because it is more selective quaternary derivative, mainly effective only on the respiratory tract. It is not having effects on other side, including brain. So very little central effects are seen. So main dominant effects on respiratory. So that is preferable, ipratropium. So it can be given in high doses by inhalation also, because it is poorly absorbed into the circulation from this bronchial or alveolar mucous membrane. Now, although antimuscarinic drugs appear to be slightly less effective than beta-2 agonist agent in case of this bronchial asthma, but its addition enhances the bronchodilation produced by nebulized patient with the albuterol in acute severe asthma. So we can combine this albuterol or salbutamol or ventolin के नाम से with ipratropium through inhalation, through when we are nebulizing the patient. So a better effects are seen with this combination. Second drug, tiotropium, a comparatively a longer acting drug as compared to ipratropium. So it is also useful especially for COPD. So especially in those patients in which inhaled corticosteroids are not controlling the condition quite effectively. Now, regarding corticosteroids, now we know this group is mainly anti-inflammatory group. So the mechanism of action involved, they are used to treat the asthma by their broad anti-inflammatory efficacy, and that is mediated by either inhibition of production of inflammatory cytokines or they reduce by. अच्छा, इसमें एक बात रिमेंबर, एक बात याद रखने वाली बात क्या है, दे आर ओनली एंटी-इंफ्लेमेटरी, दे डोंट रिलैक्स दी स्मूथली, ये ब्रोंकोडाइलेशन नहीं करेंगे, नो नो, they will only reduce the inflammation of the bronchial tree. So decrease bronchial reactivity and reduce the frequency of asthma if taken regularly, we have seen with the corticosteroid. So regarding clinical uses, when we will discuss corticosteroids, a long list of uses, but here we restrict only within respiratory tract, bronchial asthma, etc. So they are quite effective in improving all indices of asthma, severity of symptom reduced, the test of airway caliber is quite good, bronchial reactivity is reduced, frequency of expansion reduced, and quality of life is improved. So all these indices are quite well improved with the corticosteroids through inhalation. Usually therapies with corticosteroid is continued for at least 10 to 12 weeks, about 3 months tak, and then withdraw the drug gradually when the more prolonged therapy is needed. Inhaled corticosteroids are, although not curative, they are effective only up to the time we are giving the patient through inhalation. However, they are quite useful, so they are labelized as they are asthma controller. Now, regular or controller therapy is maintained with the aerosol corticosteroids because oral and parenteral corticosteroids are reserved only for urgent treatment due to severe adverse effects when given chronically. तो इसलिए कोशिश कीजिए कि थ्रू इनहेलेशन ही दें, ठीक है, ओरल पैरेंटल को रहने दीजिए फॉर एमरजेंसी और अर्जेंट मामलात में, जिनमें हम देखते हैं कि भी बाकी मामलात में वर्षों की कंडीशन इंप्रूवमेंट नहीं मिली, तो देन वी कैन शिफ्ट टू द ओरल और द पैरेंटल, अदरवाइज ओनली थ्रू इनहेलेशन. अगर एमरजेंसी आ जाए, अर्जेंट ट्रीटमेंट आ जाए, फिर जाहिर है कि ओरल और पैरेंटल. ओरल में आमतौर पर प्रेडनिसोन, पीछे भी देखा था क्लासिफिकेशन में 30 to 60 मिलीग्राम प्रेडनिसोन पर डे, या अगर इंट्रावेनस देना तो उसकी मिथाइल प्रेडनिसोलोन प्रिपरेशन मिलती है एवरी 6 to 12 आवर्स विद द डोज ऑफ 1 मिलीग्राम पर केजी के हिसाब से वो दीजिए. यूजुअली वी स्टार्ट विद द स्मॉलर डोजेज एंड वी ग्रेजुअली increase the dose of these oral or parenteral, especially oral corticosteroid after improvement in the airway obstruction. जब तक improvement नहीं होती अगली डोज मत बढ़ाएं. In most of the patients, systemic corticosteroid therapy can be discontinued in within 7 to 10 days. So, but in some other patients, symptoms may worsen. Other side effects also starts with the intake of corticosteroids like adrenal suppression, which is obviously dose related है, because secretion of endogenous corticosteroid has a diurnal variation. So it is usually what we see, usually corticosteroids are given early in the morning after endogenous adrenal corticosteroid hormone secretion has peaked. फिर हम देते हैं. For prevention purpose of especially nocturnal asthma, रात के वक्त बात करते बड़ा ज़्यादा होता है. These oral or inhaled corticosteroids are most effective when given in the late afternoon. ठीक है, सफर गुजर मगरिब के करीब जाकर दीजिए ताकि, या मगरिब के बाद ही दीजिए ताकि रात वाले जो सेवेरिटी है वो ना हो. For preventive. So through inhalation, aerosol treatment is the most effective way, as I have already told you, to avoid the systemic side effects. Otherwise, oral or this parenteral obviously will show the improvement in bronchial asthma, but at the same time, so many severe systemic side effects will also be observed. Drugs used for this through inhalation is beclomethasone, budesonide, cyclosinide, flunisolide, fluticasone, mometasone, and triamcinolone. They are usually given through inhalation with minimal possible systemic absorption and minimal systemic side effects. Usually daily dose is 4 puff twice a day of special beclomethasone, 400 microgram per day के हिसाब से. That is equivalent to about 10 to 15 milligram oral prednisolone. तो oral देने से ज़्यादा side effects होते हैं, तो इस तरह देने से through puff, through inhalation, systemic side effects are very few. So अगर आपने स्विच करना है of the patient from oral to inhaled, कि पहले severity थी oral पे डाला, वापस लाना चाहते हैं, अब हम चाहते हैं ना inhaled पे ले आएं, तो usually first of all taper off this oral therapy slowly to avoid precipitation of adrenal insufficiency, and then gradually we start giving through inhalation also. एकदम मत oral छोड़िए, otherwise precipitation of the especially adrenal insufficiency will be seen much more. In contrast to beta-2 agonistic activity and theophylline, if we use these corticosteroids chronically through inhalation, they reduce bronchial reactivity. Anti-inflammatory effect मैंने पहले भी देखा है. और अगर ओरली देते हैं विद prednisone ट्रीटमेंट, ठीक है, हालांकि इनहेलेशन स्टैंडर्ड डोज स्टीरॉइड दे रहे हैं, ठीक है, तो यूजुअली फिर क्या आते हैं, हायर इनहेलेशन डोज अपीयर टू बी मोर इफेक्टिव बजाय ओरल prednisone देने के. अब इसकी डोज इनहेलेशनल की तो डोज बढ़ा दीजिए. एडवर्स इफेक्ट्स एक तरह पीछे भी देखा कि हाई डोज ऑफ स्टीरॉइड भले हम इनहेल्ड ही क्यों ना दें, may cause adrenal suppression. This is the first most important adverse with the chronic use and high dose के साथ. When we give inhaled corticosteroids, obviously localized effect is, so oropharyngeal fungal infection, candidiasis is also seen. So we advise the person that you should immediately use mouthwash or gargle the water and spit after puff, so no localized attachment of the molecule of corticosteroid be remain there. Otherwise oropharyngeal candidiasis may appear, छोटे-छोटे white जो है ना spots. And there is localized hoarseness also due to direct local effect of these inhaled corticosteroids on the vocal cords. इसके लिए भी आप गरारे करते रहिए, नीम गर्म पानी से और बाकी. A long term use may increase risk of osteoporosis and cataracts. ये बड़े इंपॉर्टेंट है बोन्स पे और आई पे. ऑस्टियोपोरोसिस एंड कैटरैक्ट्स. ऑस्टियोपोरोसिस से स्पॉन्टेनियस फ्रैक्चर होने शुरू हो जाते हैं. एंड आल्सो व्हेन वी सी कि व्हेन सिम्टम्स ऑफ एस्थमा आर फ्लेयर्ड अप, तो आप बजाय ओरल देने के गिव इनहेल्ड corticosteroids इंटरमिटेंटली 2 दिन की बजाय, ठीक है, आप 1 दिन कर लें, जब ज़रूरत हो तब कर लें, ताकि ये अस्थमा के सिम्टम जो है वो कंट्रोल होते हैं। छोटे बच्चों में इनहेल्ड कॉर्टिकोस्टेरॉइड थेरेपी में स्लो द रेट ऑफ ग्रोथ ऑलमोस्ट अबाउट 1 सेंटीमीटर ओवर द फर्स्ट ईयर ऑफ ट्रीटमेंट, लेकिन उसके बाद नहीं। ये अमूमन पहले साल के अंदर। छोटे बच्चों में अगर मसला हो तो कोशिश करें कि ना दें, बाकी ड्रग्स हम अलग है उसके देख लें कि क्या मसला क्या देखना क्या है, एलर्जिक रिएक्शन है या कोई और प्रॉब्लम है क्या। अलबत्ता एडल्ट की हाइट में इसका इफेक्ट ऑलमोस्ट ना होने के बराबर है। इन पेशेंट्स वेयर द अस्थमा सिम्टम्स रिटर्न within few weeks after stopping the therapy of steroid, so even if they have taken in high doses for 2 years or more than 2 years, ठीक है। तो ये हमने देखा है कि बहुत सारे पेशेंट में सिम्टम रीअपीयर हो जाते हैं, रिटर्न हो जाते हैं even after prolonged use of steroid। एक और सो कॉल्ड क्लेम कर लीजिए टू मिनिमाइज द रिस्क ऑफ सिस्टमिक टॉक्सिसिटी ऑफ इनहेल्ड कॉर्टिकोस्टेरॉइड, वो हम कहते हैं कि एक प्रो ड्रग है इनहेल्ड कॉर्टिकोस्टेरॉइड साइक्लोसोनाइड, वो यूज़ कीजिए। वो एक्टिव फॉर्म में आती है बाई स्ट्रेसेस इन ब्रोंकियल एपिथेलियल सेल एंड देन इफेक्ट्स आर सीन, और इससे हम कहते हैं कि सिस्टमिक टॉक्सिसिटी बहुत कम हो जाती है। तो व्हेन दिस ड्रग इज अब्जॉर्ब द एक्टिव प्रोडक्ट इज टाइटली बाउंड टू प्लाज्मा प्रोटीन, तो इसलिए उसकी डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन भी मुख्तलिफ जगहों पे बॉडी में बाकी कोई बाइंड होगी, प्लाज्मा वो तो डिस्ट्रीब्यूट नहीं होगी, सो इनटू द स्किन, आई, बोन एक्सेट्रा। सो मिनिमल रिस्क ऑफ cutaneous thinning, cataracts, osteoporosis या temporary slowing of growth is seen।